Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here on this second day of the event. We are really happy that you are here with us. In this event, the word future has been mentioned several times, and it's the motto of the event, Shape Your Future. And we human beings love to look at what's ahead, but usually we are very bad at predicting what comes next. In this case, in the field of technology, which is our field. In 97, an astrophysicist published this in the New York Times, and I don't put the name because he was wrong, and I am wrong sometimes, so I wouldn't have my name linked to an error. And he said that Kaparov had lost the game with artificial intelligence, and he said in chess there are many options, but the Go is something that won't be defeated by artificial intelligence more than 100 years or so. And obviously, these are predictions that may be wrong, especially because our thoughts are linear, but things happen in an exponential manner. When we see, for example, that a former president of Argentina said that we were going to fly in rockets very soon. People said, well, this won't happen because the costs and this entails are huge. But our thoughts are very linear, and we say, well, the cost will be too high, this is not going to happen, but I really don't know whether it may happen or not. I may be wrong, and I don't want to bet because I would bet in a linear manner, whereas things happen exponentially. So in this presentation, I'm not going to speak a lot about the future, but I'm going to tell you about what we do, because in order to mold our future, we have to do things. And for that purpose, we have to manage our present. What are we doing? We are doing something in every field. Yesterday, I participated in the keynote, and I said that we are going to have the GeneXus which is beta. So I'm going to go back to some of the things that were said yesterday during the event and other things when we won't be able to tell you about everything. But anyway, we are going to tell you about GeneXus 15 because we are going to release everything that is mature. This thing of releasing versions is sounding a bit old. We have a continuous delivery and release of the things that we do in GeneXus development team and GeneXus in general terms. In the keynote, we focused on the process and also introduce the people who participate in solutions which become more and more complex. Now, from the point of view of what we want and the functionalities and software solutions we are requested nowadays, we continue to work in these four areas: user experience, security, integration, and something that is related to the process, which is DevOps. What does this mean? Why do we have to concern ourselves with the process of building our software? So to start with the user experience, in the literature, we read about omni-channels. This means that the first thing we have to do with our experiences is to try to reach our clients. This is something we all want, and the platform to reach them usually is the web to start with. It's a channel with less frictions we have, and we are working, therefore, on the web. Then, once I've reached my clients, I need other channels. for the engagement and also to ensure customers' loyalty. So, among final consumers, and also within the company, what happens is that I need to develop native applications. It's true that we download less and less native applications, and I download only the ones that are useful for me. And inside the company, there are certain things that are utilitarian, and I need to have native applications. Now, when they ask me what do I do, web or mobile, I tell them you should do both. But if you have to choose one, the first thing you want to do if you want to reach a lot of people is to choose web because there's certain friction in downloading applications. But if you want to have something more flexible, use enhanced reality, interaction with watches, interaction with TV, a web application will have these functions. Even though the web is trying to catch up, the engagement is achieved with native applications. But this is not the only road. Think about WeChat. I wouldn't say it's an app. WeChat in China is China's surf tool. It became the first entry point to the functionalities the users want. And WeChat says interfaces in conversation works very well. And they have a conversational interface, but what people use most inside WeChat are web applications, native functionalities, and integrated features such as payments. Most people use WeChat to make payments, and it has a conversational interface too, which offers interfaces of natural language in order to communicate with some suppliers. But most suppliers have a code through which I can pay. This is what is most used. And behind the conversational interfaces, there is something. So what we are doing is a chatbot generator, and I invite you to attend Sebastián Gómez and Diego's presentation, who are going to explain these aspects well. But to sum up, in order to do things in an automated manner, we use a bot which doesn't need to be a chatbot. It's a bot which calls a service which does something automatically. But the interface can be just any interface. It doesn't need to be a chat. Now, when we want to go from a direct interface, for example, pushing a button and executing an action, to having a voice input or writing something as an input, we need someone to interpret this and say the intention of the end user was to do such and such a thing. And this is extremely complicated. The treatment of natural language is very advanced, and it can say this person said such and such a thing, but what the person means is different. It's difficult to understand. We even have difficulties communicating amongst ourselves. So this is the complicated part, and in the platform some tools are coming up in the cloud in order to deal with this issue. So the chatbot is going to be integrated with various suppliers. Some are going to interpret things better, others worse, but they are going to be able to test and see what things and see which one works better. For example, some are going to try Watson and in English or Spanish or Japanese, those that understand better may be different. And if we put the bot behind Clarita, which is a user interface, we can also put it besides the Google Assistant or Facebook with a bot interface. And what's behind is a bot that executes services. As you know, we tried this for the events application, and we saw that there were several issues, but we are on the right track for these things to evolve, and we don't want to be caught off guard. There are many things that can be tried, and I would say lower your expectations. The bot won't say, this is what's going on. If you lower your expectations, eventually you will see that the bot functions because people won't expect the bot to answer more things that it can. So this will be an annex to the smart device. Smart devices will have bot generators. But besides this, we have been working in web and in mobile in details, things such as animation, because we think that animations have evolved and we are using, for example, Lotus, which is an escalation of the animations we were using. And we've included 1,000 details in maps, for example, UIs to show traffic, etc. And I think that GeneXus mobile applications right now have a lot of potential and are easier to make than in manual platforms. As Nicolas said, the faces are streams. So what's the main element that GeneXus uses? Well, it's our grids. We make a lot of effort in modeling various types of grids, multiple columns with the different sizes that adapt. You're going to see here a lot of things. We went from the details to things that seem relevant in the various types of grids. The other important point you will see in the tarot is powering analytics. Gustavo Martinez will give a presentation about analytics, and you will see that the query object, which is an object that does not require coding, has been improved. And we saw that there was intelligence in the relationship between these queries. In this relationship, in the Terra version, we have created a dashboard where we can put various queries, this in just a few words, and the queries have different filters which may be applied to several ones. And when I filter, I see several grids at the same time. Gustavo will tell you more, so I don't want to enter into details, but I think that there is fantastic work in these developments because we see there the power of making statements or declaring instead of programming. And I think that this is something that we will try to achieve more and more in our developments. Now, the other day, I said that one of the things that is evolving is the development of web interfaces. We started seeing a lot of frameworks to solve what? Well, showed you that the web was for reach and for engagement it was native, but some people think that web is for everything, and that's okay. And what they do is a strong push to take a lot of functionalities of the native applications to the applications made with the web. And when I said mobile, it's for any device of any size. So in this kind of apps, we technicians always like to find names and acronyms, and we found this acronym PWA, Progressive Web Application, and Nicolas Cardellino will be explaining the features of this kind of applications. But what happens here is that several frameworks appeared, some made by giants, like the framework Angular made by Google, and the second one made by Facebook, but in some countries this cannot be used. So here we have Vue, which is used by Alibaba in its site, and they have a lot of strength. These are the ones I thought were most relevant. There are some others like Meteor, etc., but they will continue coming up, and every year there's a new one, and the versions change quite fast. So we said we are going to have a layer that we call GeneXus G that will allow us to generate very quickly these generators and cooperate with other companies in order to have small generators for the user experience. So basically, there's going to be a server, like for the mobile applications, offering services, and then a front-end layer, which is developed in some of these frameworks, and we end up creating web applications. The difference is that it has some frameworks that are in fashion. Is this good or bad? Well, we'll see, but it's not our decision to say this is good or this is bad. What's popular? Well, we have to follow, and as fast as possible, with this new technology that we call GeneXus G. As some may know, we have been working on the basis of our models using GeneXus M, which is not a product in itself, is like a platform where we have cross-platforms IDEs in order to work quickly. And same thing for GeneXus G. It's not a product in itself. Our vision is to work always in our digital assets, the generation of codes and modeling. These are the two big areas on which our development team is working. The second step, therefore, beyond the user experience, which the world is imposing, our clients are imposing because they want a very good user experience. There's something else, something that is implicit and is not told by our clients. It's our responsibility to work on security issues. The question of security is something that has to be done. The clients are not going to tell us, well, my emails were stolen, and I cannot say, well, that's none of my business. It's my responsibility to work on security, and probably all of you are imagining different cases because lots of things have happened, and this is an ongoing struggle. We work closely with security experts of many companies, GeneXus Consulting, for example, and they are working a lot in the world of security to see what has to be done. They cannot guarantee anything, but we are one step ahead of those who don't worry about security and don't take up this responsibility. In the past, some companies said, well, security should be following the top 10 of the OWASP, but there are some shortcomings more and more as time goes by, and they have worked on a standards of application security verification standard. It's a very long name, but what does this mean? It means that they continue working on standards so that we have already digested information about what an application should be. And depending on the level of security we want to have, well, it's not the same thing to do something sophisticated like sending a rocket from one country to the next, or saying I'm in context, I don't need this security level. So the OWASP identifies various security levels that we have to comply with. The ASVS, for example, the Application Security Verification Standard for applications in general, and one specific for mobile on which we are working proactively so that by default each one of the security levels is present with GeneXus. So nowadays it's not possible to do it only with GeneXus because there are many tasks that depend on the domain and also depend on operational matters. For example, they have to be put under a safe communications protocol, and when it is going to be created, there are certain actions that have to be taken, certificates, etc.
If you've seen the networks, there's a push on webinars, on security, security courses, and I do recommend really take some of those webinars or get some training. Because by default, GeneXus is going to be safer than nothing. But there are things that lie within our own responsibilities as solution developers. From the viewpoint of our experience, experience tells us that we need to do this, that security is our responsibility. And as Gustavo Carriquiri said, there's no green field, there is integration. And we've been working hard, not just in terms of integration, but rather interoperability. For integration, I just need to define the language. We'll share, these are my languages, these are your languages, we communicate, and that's it. That's all we need. So what is important is to determine the standard protocols. We've been working with SOAP. Many parts refer to what is around SOAP, web service security, and so on. In authentication, we've been working so that GeneXus can make a very easy identity provider. There's a presentation by Alejandra Ceballos on this. Open API is very common today. These are descriptive services. And OData, which is an older protocol that has been used by the most important RPs. SP uses OData, but other products also integrate. Alejandro Paniza will give a presentation, and I recommend it, because many times you focus on the user experience, which is good, but oftentimes the business lies on the design of my API, or API first, as some people say. So the core of my business will be with an API, and then innovation will be carried out by other different teams using whatever they want. And then the core is in my API. Bantotal is one example. Alejandro Paniza's presentation will explain this in more detail, but it's very important for you to remember this. We tend to leave this behind, but a good API design makes things flow easier. So that's interoperable. But what we really want to accept as an opportunity is a functional integration. We speak the same language, but in general we do not integrate. And integration implies that the parties are ready to evolve together. If Mercado Libre evolves, we could use networks to connect. But as Mercado Libre evolves, we evolve alongside. We are committed to that evolution. So, in fact, we are integrating because we are adding value. Maybe sometimes we start interoperating and then we start building value. We've been working in each of the integration areas very strongly, from SAP to artificial intelligence. When we say integration, we have an SDK to really integrate, not just by making a call, which is something we can do today. So this leads to the topics of integration that requires us to integrate with the cloud more strongly. In the last year, the most interesting thing to say about cloud integration, the thing that will have an influence around new models in GeneXus, is what we call serverless. The cloud has evolved from giving me a machine and you install everything you need and then I put it online. That's an infrastructure as service. Moving to, okay, don't worry, the services are uploaded, but behind it I have a machine that's working all day long. That's a platform as service. Going to something that requires just use my machine. It's a serverless. I'm not going to have one machine for you. I will only wake up when you ask me this function. So it's function as service. This would kill the daemons we have around, just in case we get a daemon. The daemon is processing something or waiting for data in the database to do something, to react, but then it's idle the rest of the time. But I don't want to have 5 daemons when the number of calls that I get for those daemons every day is probably 100,000, which is nothing. So there are enough reasons, enough economic reasons that will make me decide what architecture to choose. The developer will be concerned about the type of architecture he will choose. So in terms of integration, it involves everything in the future. One thing GeneXus does is act as an integrator in all these areas: blockchain, serverless, stream processing. We are doing things that I believe will have an impact, that will serve in the short term. I did not mention all of them. For example, stream processing will be integrating with Kafka, which is a place where I can do distributed logging. I can capture IoT events and so on. There are many, many things where we can expand. But before concluding, I would like to mention a few things that are not a functional requirement. They are non-functional, but if they ask me 24/7, quality for the system and so on, why was there a mistake? Where did it happen? That sort of thing is being required. And that has to do with the way we work. If we are not working in an integrated way with tools that help us, we can hardly meet quality standards. So what are the things that will change? Performance monitors will change. The business analyst will tell me, okay, give me an analysis of what the users need. Well, try to avoid mistakes. Don't start with the unit testing only. If you were not able to prevent a mistake, and there was a mistake, try to avoid it in future. Explain what steps you've taken to prevent that from happening again. I cannot accept you repeating that mistake or error. So there's a lot of pressure on us. And at some point, every night you will say, well, the system is downloaded, I do my process, I clean things, a small memory leak down there in GeneXus or a mistake can be very, very serious. So we are also trying to work with different companies to really recover from a crisis or a disaster. We launch an exception. We cannot lose connection to the database because of such a thing. So we are working hard on that so as to create something that will make our customers satisfied so that the quality of GeneXus is the best. And in terms of details, and from end to end, the quality of my system is better than any other system built by a human being. So, to conclude, in our GeneXus team, what we do is pay attention to the present so that we can really shape our future. Thank you.